outnumbered?
I'm not going to comment on commentary. You wouldn't expect me to, because I'm not focused on comments that other people relay to me or that might be made in a variety of contexts. The only thing I care about is working hard for the Australian people, and I lead a team, a very proud team that represents the values.
G'day, Australia. Nothing says we're a united party ready to govern quite like one of your own senators going on the record to basically say the leader is a dead woman walking. Susan Ley, the Liberal Party leader who's supposed to be laser-focused on taking down Anthony Albanese and winning the next election, is instead fighting for her political life from within her own ranks. Senator Sarah Henderson just lobbed a political grenade into Liberal headquarters by declaring she, quote, could not support things the way they are, and that Ley is losing support within the party. Translation: Dear leader, your time's up, and we're already measuring the office for new curtains. Now Ley's facing the Canberra press pack like a contestant on a particularly brutal episode of Australian Survivor, except instead of getting voted off the island, she might get voted out of the leadership. And mate, the knives aren't just out, they're being sharpened in broad daylight. Quick favour, if you're enjoying this absolute political carnage, hit that subscribe button and smash the bell icon. Over 90% of you watching haven't subscribed yet. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and honestly, we need you on board for the chaos that's coming. Cheers if you did. Now, let's dive into the Liberal Party's latest attempt at eating itself alive while pretending everything's fine. So here's what's happening, and buckle up because this is messy. Susan Ley became Liberal leader after the party's loss at the last election.
She says it's in dire straits, it's the worst it's been in years, the party. So can you comment on those remarks?
I value every single member of my team, including the good senator that you've just mentioned. In order to interrogate her views, you should probably ask her. I'm not commenting on commentary. What I am saying is that every one of my team is absolutely united behind the focus that we have right now, which is to hold this Labor government to account for an energy policy that is destructive of households, businesses, and indeed harming the economy.
Stepping into a role that's historically been about as stable as a house of cards in a windstorm. Leading the Liberals when they're in opposition is like being given the keys to a car that's already on fire and being told to win a race. But Ley took it on, presumably thinking she could unite the party, present a credible alternative to Labor, and position herself as Australia's next Prime Minister. Fast forward to now, and she's standing at a press conference in Canberra trying to talk about cost of living while journalists are basically asking, so, when are you getting dumped? It's like trying to discuss dinner plans while your house is actively burning down behind you. Sure, we need to eat, but maybe address the 5-alarm fire first. Senator Sarah Henderson's comments are what we call in politics an intervention, except instead of helping someone, you're actively ending their career. Henderson didn't just raise concerns in a private party room meeting where these things usually get sorted, she went public. She told the media that she can't support things the way they are and that Ley is losing support within the party. Now, for those not fluent in political speak, let me translate. The leader's done, we're looking for a replacement, and I'm putting my name forward as someone willing to say what everyone's thinking. It's the political equivalent of standing up at a wedding and saying, actually, I object, except the marriage is already on the rocks and everyone knew this was coming. The timing of all this is particularly brutal for Ley because we're heading into an election year.
Do you have a problem with your backbench though, because there's been several times where members have spoken out against your comments, your initial response to Kevin Rudd's incident in the White House a few days later as well on Joy Division. Do you have a problem, and is it disappointing to see the way that backbenchers are speaking about your leadership?
I'm proud of my team, and I know that every single member of that team is contributing to the serious credible policy agenda that I spoke about, because we are united around our values, the values of the Liberal Party: aspiration, enterprise, freedom and choice. And when we meet on Wednesday to talk about our energy policy, I know that that will be a very important moment in our party, because it will demonstrate the focus we have on backing in the Australians that we are here to work hard for every single day.
Last question.
Susan Lee, you say you're united, your party is united, but isn't the point that it clearly isn't united on net zero, and nobody basically can suggest a formula at the moment that will unite it? Can you tell us what a formula might look like, or even give us a hint of how you bring together the extremes in your party on this topic?
I'll clearly have more to say after the Liberal Party meets, and I'm not going to presuppose the outcome of that meeting, because I made it clear when I became leader that every single member of my party room would be enfranchised to contribute to the policy discussion about energy, and they have. And that includes the working group led by Dan Tehan that has heard from industry and experts. It includes backbench committees, and I know that we talk a lot about process, but in this respect, process has been important, because it has meant that when we meet together, we will have the information in front of us and the views of every single member of my team to make the determination. That is so.
This is supposed to be the time when the opposition is united, disciplined, and relentlessly focused on the government's failures. Instead, the Liberals are having what can only be described as a very public nervous breakdown about whether they've got the right person leading them into battle. It's like preparing for the grand final and your team's in the locker room arguing about whether the coach should even be there. Meanwhile, Labor's watching this unfold with popcorn, barely able to believe their luck. Why attack your opponents when they're doing such a spectacular job of destroying themselves? Now let's talk about the press conference, because this is where things get properly uncomfortable. Lay's standing there, presumably with talking points about cost of living, inflation, electricity prices, all the things oppositions are supposed to hammer governments on, but the journalists aren't interested in that. They want to know if her days leading the party are numbered. They're not asking if there's leadership speculation. They're not asking if she's concerned about party unity. They're straight up asking, are you about to get dumped? That's not a question you ask a strong, secure leader. That's a question you ask someone who's already got one foot out the door, and everybody knows it. And the fact that multiple journalists are asking variations of the same question tells you this isn't just rumour or gossip. This is legitimate political crisis territory. Lay's response to all this has been to bat away the speculation and try and refocus on Labor, which is exactly what you'd expect her to do. What else is she going to say? Yeah, you're right, I'm probably done. Shall we start discussing my replacement now? Of course not. Every leader facing speculation about their position does the same thing. Deny, deflect, attack the opposition, talk about unity, and hope the whole thing blows over. Sometimes it works. Often it doesn't. The problem for Lay is that this isn't coming from the usual suspects, the perennial complainers and malcontents that every party has. This is coming from someone like Sarah Henderson, a senator who's been around long enough to know that going public with criticism of the leader is basically political nuclear warfare. You don't do that lightly. You do that when you've decided the current situation is untenable and something needs to change. Consequences be damned.
Here's where the Liberal Party's historical context becomes important, because this isn't new territory for them. The Liberals have form when it comes to leadership instability. Remember the Kevin Rudd, Julia Gillard, Kevin Rudd saga in Labor? The Liberals watched that unfold, criticised it endlessly, called it chaos and dysfunction, and then proceeded to do exactly the same thing. Tony Abbott became Prime Minister, then got rolled by Malcolm Turnbull. Turnbull led for a while, then got rolled by Scott Morrison. Morrison won an election and served a full term, which in modern Australian politics counts as stability, but now the party's in opposition and the knives are out again. It's like they're addicted to leadership spills the way some people are addicted to reality television. They know it's bad for them, they know it looks terrible to voters, but they just can't help themselves. The question everyone's asking now is, who replaces Lay if she does get rolled? Leadership speculation is pointless without discussing the alternatives, and in the Liberal Party right now, there's no obvious heir apparent that everyone's rallying around. You got Peter Dutton lurking in the background, a figure who polarises people. Some think he's strong and decisive, others think he's got the charisma of a brick wall. You got Angus Taylor, who's been positioning himself for ages. You got various state premiers and former ministers with their own ambitions. And apparently you've got Sarah Henderson thinking maybe it's my time to shine. The problem with having multiple contenders is that it leads to factions, deals, numbers counting, and all the behind-the-scenes nonsense that distracts from actually doing the job of opposition. While they're arguing about who should lead, Labor's governing, announcing policies and looking like the adults in the room by comparison. But let's be fair to the Liberals for a second and ask the hard question. Is Lay actually doing a bad job, or is this just typical opposition party dysfunction? Leading in opposition is genuinely difficult. You don't have the resources of government. You don't control the policy agenda. You're constantly reacting to what the government does rather than setting your own narrative. You need to criticise effectively without looking purely negative. You need to present alternative policies without giving the government ammunition to attack you. You need to manage internal party tensions while looking united, and you need to do all this while the media is constantly scrutinising every poll, every misstep, every sign of internal dissent. It's a job that has broken better politicians than Susan Ley. So the question becomes, is she genuinely not up to the task, or is the party expecting miracles from someone in an impossible position? The cost of living issue that Ley was trying to focus on in that press conference is actually the perfect weapon for an opposition right now. Australians are genuinely struggling with higher prices, increased mortgage payments, rising rents and stagnant wage growth. Every time someone fills up their car or does the grocery shopping, they're reminded that things are expensive and getting more expensive. That's political gold for an opposition. You can hang every price increase around the government